You're watching Saturday Anime on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Greetings, this is Reverend Paul, and this is Raw, and once again we are going to continue our discussion about Chainsaw Man. In the last episode, we saw an epic fight between Denji and the Bat Devil, and he sliced the Bat Devil to pieces in order to save Power and her trusted cat Nyako. So Chainsaw Man episode 4 picks up with Denji saving Power, and just as he's about to cop a feel of those awesome tits, he is attacked by the Leech Devil. And the Leech Devil is like a creepy looking weird leech chick, and it turns out she was actually like the girlfriend of the Bat Devil. And now that I say that, I can't help but conjure up the image of what it looks like of these two devils fucking. So I guess the Bat Devil was sucking the blood out of the Leech Devil's banana boobs? I don't know, I'm thinking about this way too much, but I digress. So Denji tries to fight the Leech Devil, but unfortunately he is out of blood. He is unable to completely transform into Chainsaw Man. But Denji still puts up pretty good of a fight, but the Leech Devil does kick his ass. But the day is not lost because Denji is saved by the Fox Devil, who has a contract with Aki. In exchange for eating away a part of Aki's body, the Fox Devil will do Aki's bidding. So they take Denji's body to the hospital and he heals up in the hospital, and it seems like Denji and Aki have come to an understanding, and maybe this means they're going to start to get along a little bit better. And then when Aki and Denji get back to the house, Aki chills out, he makes himself a cup of coffee, he has a couple of cigarettes, he starts reading his paper, then he gets a call from Makima, and it turns out that Power is going to move in with Denji and Aki. And living with Power is quite a challenge because Power is pretty difficult. She's pretty gross. She doesn't clean up after herself after using the bathroom. She refuses to eat her vegetables. Power is an all-around pretty difficult roommate. Chainsaw Man episode 4 is kind of the inverse of episode 3. Where episode 3 started off slow and builds to a climactic action sequence, episode 4 begins with a big action set piece and then winds down to more slice of lifey stuff. I do feel like there are two big things worth talking about in this episode, and I'm not just talking about Power's boobs. I mean, I am talking about her boobs, but I'm also talking about other stuff. Just like the last episode, we are starting to see the world of Chainsaw Man has a lot of nuance to it. Even though the episode presents it as a bit of an aside, the fact that the Bat Devil and the Leech Devil were in a relationship is interesting. It means that the devils have more dimension to them than just being these evil creatures. This is an idea we also see expressed with Power. Even though she's a fiend and she's obnoxious and she's quick to violence, in this episode we see that Power cares about Denji. When Denji is being attacked by the Leech Devil, Power tells Denji to take Nyako and run away. Even though Power is a murderous psycho who totally had plans to kill Denji, she is able to grow as a person. Slowly the anime is beginning to tell us that the line between good and evil in this world is not clearly defined. Even though Aki covers for Power and he frees her from her restraints, he still insists that devils are their enemies. Aki has a very black and white way of looking at the world. As these episodes are going on, it's becoming increasingly clear that despite Aki's black and white thinking, he exists in a world of gray. I think Aki's relationship with the Fox Devil also gives us a little bit more insight into the world of Chainsaw Man, because Aki can't use the Fox Devil without losing a piece of himself. So everything in the world of Chainsaw Man comes at a price. Whether we're talking about using a giant fox as a super move or squeezing a boob, nothing will come to you for free. This episode is also the beginning of the awesome boob payoff. Now, in the last episode, Power told Denji that if he saved Nyako, she would let him play with her boobs, and this episode gives us the payoff, where Power corners Denji in the restroom and tells him, now is the time you could touch my boobs. And going back to what I said in the last video, this idea of Denji's quest for touching boobs being this metaphor for fear. It's interesting that when Denji is finally given the opportunity to touch boobs, he freezes up and he gets scared. This should make it even clearer that Denji's problem is not that he had no boobs to touch. The reason he wasn't touching boobs is because he was too afraid to try in the first place. I also feel like you could interpret Denji's reaction to finally being able to touch boobs as a kind of fear of success. Do you ever have that moment where like you wanted something really badly and then you worked really hard to try to get it, and then you had this realization that you were about to get the thing that you wanted, and then suddenly you got really freaked out. Sometimes you spend so much time dreaming about something that you never actually really think about what it actually means to get it, because you've become more comfortable with chasing the goal than actually achieving it. Denji started to show his first bit of confidence outside of his Chainsaw Man persona when he was fighting the Leech Devil when his body couldn't complete its transformation. Even though Denji wasn't able to summon all of the strength of Chainsaw Man, Denji was able to go the distance with the Leech Devil just by sheer will. Denji is beginning to push back against his fear. And I think this episode also lends credence to the idea I brought up in the previous video, where despite what Denji says, he does care about Power. Aki points out Power tried to fucking kill Denji, and Denji still thinks she seems pretty cool. Even though Denji has been beaten down by a cynical world, and he himself has become cynical, he still sees the good in people. The Chainsaw Man versus Leech Devil fight is not as good as the Bat Devil fight from the previous episode, but I don't see that being a problem because this episode serves more as a continuation of the ideas and themes of the previous episode. So even though the Leech Devil fight sequence isn't as badass as the Bat fight sequence, I think the fight works well because it serves its function within the story, and it's also entertaining. It shows that even in a partial transformation, Chainsaw Man is pretty fucking lethal. This episode of Chainsaw Man also introduces the rest of Division 4, Himeno, Adai, and Higashiyama. So that's pretty cool. So far, episode 3 still holds the title of my favorite ending sequence, but I think the ending sequence of this episode is fun. It's a cute ending sequence that gives us a lot of characterization of Power, and it's a fun, entertaining visual way of showing off different aspects of Power's personality. Now, everybody, including myself, loves Power, but as we see in this episode, living with Power would be a real fucking pain in the ass. But I mean, it's understandable because Power is a person who used to live naked in the forest. She would kill animals and eat them raw. So Power is not used to like modern sensibilities like bathing. But that is not a problem for me because I think Power is awesome. She's got no problem showing off her boobs. And you want to know what? Maybe fiends don't need to bathe. Maybe fiends don't have sweat glands and don't get dirty. I don't know. This episode of Chainsaw Man also has what I think is the funniest scene in the series so far, where Aki has his arm over Denji and he's trying to help him walk, and then Denji's all wall-eyed and he's like, ah, ah, ah. Like Denji sounds like Arnold in Total Recall when he's on the surface of Mars and his fucking eyes are bugging out of his head. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Overall, I wouldn't say Chainsaw Man episode 4 is as strong as episode 3, but I do think episode 4 is a good episode in its own right, and it really serves more as a continuation of episode 3, both in terms of the narrative and reinforcing the themes. Episodes 3 and 4 could be looked at as one long episode. I bet you didn't think we were going to spend this much time talking about boobs. It's probably starting to make sense why, out of all of the animes, this is the one I chose to do episode reviews of. And it really should be a lesson to all the writers out there. Just because your story is about boobs doesn't mean it doesn't have an important and meaningful message. And so next week, we're going to break down the epic honking of the Hooters, and there's going to be a lot more boob symbolism to talk about, so don't miss that, and stick around. So once again, this is Reverend Paul saying, until we meet again.